It's November 23rd, 2022. I'm Andy Johnson. Good morning. This is how we're going to begin the program. So you begin the programming on this TV station, WESN. In the second hour, we'll be talking with Dr. Bishnu Raghunath. He's a political analyst who's at the University of the West Indies in St. Augustine. We're talking about the matter that will take place in the court today, the challenge on the conduct of the elections in the ruling People's National Movement. Karen Nunes Teixeira, one of those contesting the position of political leader, has filed an action in the court challenging the spread of the elections over 3 days, and that the contention is that that is a change in the constitution of the party, and they're challenging that, and that should not happen without a decision at the party's general council. So we should hear something about how that is being looked at in the country from this experienced political analyst. Also, we're talking with Mr. Anil Jutarami. He's the chairman of the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation. The question of flooding in that part of the country, it continues to be a nightmare on an annual basis when there is rainfall, to the extent that we have it these days, in these weeks, and these months. Also, Wendy Jeremy and Anisha Rumani, they are members of what's called the BP Marionettes Chorale, and they have a concert coming up at Christmas with the Marionettes. We will talk with them about what that is, this edition of it, and where it has come from, the years in which this has been taking place, and the extent to which it brings some joy to people across the country. Of course, we have our trip around the region. We'll tell you about what those are as we get to it, those things and more on this edition of the program. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
At Belgroves, celebrating life is our commitment with integrity, compassion, and dignity for your loved ones. Belgroves Funeral Home and Crematorium, serving Trinidad and Tobago for over a century.
Your Christmas is safe with us at PCU. Police Credit Union. Police Credit Union. Your Christmas is safe with us at PCU. Police Credit Union. PCU. Police Credit Union.
Get an easy zero-interest Christmas loan at Police Credit Union today. Borrow up to $25,000 with affordable monthly payments. New members, you get up to $10,000. No interest, no installments until January. Apply online at www.policecreditunion.com. Loan subject to credit approval.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website, www.fanzonett.com, for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website, fanzonett.com, to make your purchase today.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered,
the conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. only on WESN Content Capital.
Make every occasion a sparkling celebration with Rosabella alcohol-free wine.
Toast cheers with hourglass rings. Rosabella, live life with Rosabella sparkling drink. Celebrate!
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the Content Capital.
Whether it's your family meet and eat or your own personal getaway retreat, a business trip, accommodation, or a couple's celebration, the Cocoa Reef Resort and Spa has room for you. There's always sumptuous, delicious cuisine and the gym and tennis court for a good workout routine. Then relax by the pool or on the private beach, or just head to the spa. It's also within reach. The Cocoa Reef Resort and Spa, Tobago's best beach resort. For reservations, call 639-8571 or check our website.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the Home Store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Shogunas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue, St. Anne's, WESN 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook, Metropolitan Bookshop, Ariapita Avenue, Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.
Welcome back to the program. We're trying to hook up with our guest here, Mr. Anil Jutaram, the chairman of the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation. He's talking about the impact of heavy rainfalls and flooding in their districts. While we do that, let's just tell you some of what, well, most of you probably would know it about this story. It's getting big coverage. The Commission of Inquiry into what happened in Paria. Several people died. One man survived that undersea ordeal, and he was on the stand yesterday. Not necessarily being cross-examined, but outlining what happened and talking about what happened. This story in Newsday this morning, it's called A Nightmare. The Commission of Inquiry here is Paria survivor's tale, and if you watched it, it was heartrending. It says Christopher Boudram is his name. He's the sole survivor in the Paria tragedy, which claimed the lives of 4 divers. On Tuesday, gave a harrowing account of being sucked into an undersea oil pipeline before escaping. And this is him speaking here. I did not know if I was in heaven or in hell or in a pipe, he told the Commission of Inquiry at the International Waterfront Center in Port of Spain. We wept openly at times as he spoke. He said he wept openly at times as he spoke. Chairman Jerome Lynch, King's Counsel, allowed him to step outside briefly to compose himself. He summed up his experience inside the pipeline as, quote, an unbelievable nightmare, unquote. Divers Faisal, Kurban, Kazim Ali Jr., Rishi Nagasa, and Yusuf Henry and Boudram was sucked into a 30-inch pipeline at Pointe-à-Pied on the compound of Paria Fuel Trading Company on February 25th. While Boudram couldn't get rescuers to his trapped colleagues as he had promised, his fellow divers had saved his life by directing him to the open berth 6, not the sealed berth 5. Quote, if they didn't know which direction to go in, I'd be dead today, he said. Boudram complained of no rescue efforts to save his colleagues. He said upon emerging from the pipeline, he couldn't access a decompression unit and relied on his wife for a salve to clean oil from his sinuses. He felt his wife under threat. He felt his life under threat in a COVID-19 situation, even though he was COVID-free, next to a woman who died shortly after he was placed there. Boudram disputed Paria manager Colin Piper's evidential claim that Boudram had said the trapped men were already dead. Quote, I would not say something like that. Why would I call Mr. Piper to say I think them fellas dead? Unquote. He recalled the incident of their work chamber, the habitat, they called it, suddenly filling with water. I said, let's go out of here. Jumping into the sea, he was spun rapidly as if in a tornado beating up on his body. It happened so fast. In a fetal position, he was pulled through the pipeline at unbelievable speeds, debris hitting him. Boudram had to hold his breath so long his lungs made gasping noises. which he hauntingly replicated at the commission. I said, God, I'm coming. Ma, look for me. I was in a state of panic. I was not sure if I was dead. I was not sure if I was alive. He heard other divers asking, Kazim, you all right? He replied, Ali, no, I'm in real pain. I mash up bad. Henry said, my foot break. Budram recalled, I said, no, we're not going to die. We're coming out of here, boy. We have to get out of this. God is good. And that was some of what was played at the inquiry yesterday. Budram said the men formed a chain, pulling and pushing each other along the pipeline. Inside, there was like an unbelievable nightmare. Your eyes burning. Every time you try to open your eyes, it's burning. Pitch black, you can't see anything. Your throat burning, your ears ringing, your body sore. The men in pain linked up themselves. We drag and pull. Wiping his nostrils with a wash rag, he asked to go outside, and Lynch ordered a short break. A tearful Budram returned and apologized. The chairman said, you have no need for an apology. The counsel to the Commission of Inquiry, Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, helped by relating Budram's evidence, which he had previously given in a statement. Budram said the men were in 8 to 10 inches of water, but moving along, it got deeper, aiding their mobility but providing less air. He recalled telling Kurban, nobody can help us here but God. The men found a scuba tank also sucked into the pipe, and he told them each to take 2 to 3 pulls to avoid becoming delirious from the pipeline air. Trying to stay calm and keep those fellas calm was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. Yusuf was in a pain, but was a fighter. He was resilient to a different level. Budram recalled finding a GoPro camera. He's quoted here saying, I was thinking of leaving a message for my family. However, he decided against it and made up his mind to fight his way out of the pipeline to get help for the others. He said he went ahead of the men for 15 feet to explore, fearing he'd end up trapped in a berth 5. I have to try because failure is death. He wiped his eyes as he spoke. Kaz said, don't go. I said, I have to. He said he kicked his foot free of one's grasp. I had to yank it out, force it out. I started to move through the water. My tank started to go dry. I can only hope I'm reaching a next air pocket or get a next tank. My tank hit a next tank, and he made the sound of that. It went tong. Using that tank was like eating oil. My mind was just on forward, go forward. Faizi said, Christopher, I'm right here, wait for me. I said, I can't wait for you. If we have to save anybody, we have to get out of here. Faizi, I can't wait. In the habitat, he clung desperately to a chain, feeling exhausted and faint. His first rescuer appeared. The person was someone he knew, but did not recognize. I swear to God, it was the angel of death. He then saw one of Kurban's sons, Nicholas, and told him to rescue your father. Now, boy, now. Unable to get treated at a decompression unit, Budram reflected, I felt like nobody cared for me. Everybody was like a headless chicken, saying potential rescuers could have bypassed any 6-inch wide scuba tank in the pipeline. As he had done to exist, he said he begged for a rescue, but said Pario officials repeatedly citing scuba gear available, presumably being adequate equipment for a rescue. And that's just one of the pages of this coverage of that inquiry yesterday. Let's move from that a little bit and let's take a look at what is happening around the region. We go to the story with Guyana and Venezuela. Former Minister of Foreign Affairs in Guyana, who represented the country in the current border dispute, that the International Court of Justice rejected Venezuela's argument that the International Court of Justice should dismiss Guyana's claim for lack of admission. A report now from News Source Guyana.
Guyana's agent on the current border matter before the International Court of Justice, former Foreign Minister Carl Greenidge, today rejected Venezuela's contention that the ICJ should throw out Guyana's case on the grounds of admissibility. Delivering the opening presentation at the World Court for Guyana, Mr. Greenidge said Venezuela's objections appear not to be grounded in law, but it is to derail and delay the process, which will see the matter being settled and binding on all parties once and for all.
Guyana will demonstrate today that Venezuela's preliminary objections are both legally unsupportable and entirely without foundation. The preliminary objections appear to be a device intended to derail and delay the court's determination of the merits of Guyana's claims.
Mr. Greenidge told the judges of the International Court that although Venezuela continues to question the jurisdiction of the court, its participation now to object to Guyana's merits of the case shows that indeed Venezuela has confidence in the court to hear the border matter. He said it is his hope that Venezuela will participate in the case until its finality. Mr. Greenidge also described Venezuela's arguments in the case as surprising. Venezuela has argued that an agreement was reached between the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and Guyana's former imperial power Britain, and therefore it is Britain that should be a party to the proceedings and not Guyana. But Mr. Greenidge today told the court that Britain relinquished its authority over Guyana nearly 60 years ago and never asserted any claim. Therefore, it has no right or legal interest in respect to the disputed territory. He said Britain also welcomed the decision of the Secretary General to send the matter to the International Court.
Despite this, you heard Venezuela yesterday make a startling appeal to the need to protect the dignity of that former imperial power by refusing to exercise jurisdiction over a claim brought by its former imperial possession, Guyana.
Greenidge said the Guyanese people have full confidence in the ICJ to resolve the matter and bring it to finality. Guyana has retained a battery of international lawyers to argue its case before the International Court of Justice. The foundation of Guyana's arguments is based on the premise that the ICJ has already ruled that it has jurisdiction to hear the case and therefore it cannot treat Venezuela's objections as a serious one, since it will go against its own ruling on the jurisdiction question and rules of the court.
This is AM Prime. We'll take a break and we're back in a moment. Stay with us.
Whether it's a room for 1, 2, 3 or more, there's a room waiting with the ocean view almost to your door. Cocoa Reef Resort and Spa, the perfect getaway when you don't want to travel far. The Cocoa Reef Resort and Spa, Crown Point, Tobago. Call 639-8571 for your reservation.
Your Christmas is safe with us at PCU. Police Credit Union. Police Credit Union. Your Christmas is safe with us at PCU. Police Credit Union. PCU. Police Credit Union.
Get an easy zero-interest Christmas loan at Police Credit Union today. Borrow up to $25,000 with affordable monthly payments. New members, you get up to $10,000. No interest, no installments until January. Apply online at www.policecreditunion.com. Loan subject to credit approval.
At Belgroves, celebrating life is our commitment with integrity, compassion, and dignity for your loved ones. Belgroves Funeral Home and Crematorium, serving Trinidad and Tobago for over a century.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you do in Andre.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Make every occasion a sparkling
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
The best for your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship McLean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Living in victory every day.
Inspire, motivate, encourage, hope. It's about topical issues. It's about everything that you would want to know about hope, about life. At the end, you're going to say, yes, if he can do it, I can do it too. If she can, I can do it too.
No matter what they say, living in victory every day.
Nicole Lawson Live, living in victory every day. Every Sunday at 8 p.m. and Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. on WESN.
Welcome back to the program. Well, let's tell you some of what is happening elsewhere in the world on this edition of the program. We want to start with a story of the World Cup in Qatar. And this is about how the captains of teams at England, Wales, Belgium, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Germany, and Denmark, they have backed down on wearing One Love armbands at the games under pressure from FIFA. The association said that a joint statement on Monday advertising their position. Here's a look at that.
The England versus Iran match, which is about to get underway. England, of course, being tipped to win.
England absolutely the favourites to start this game against Iran. All the bookmakers put in the three lions. Comfortable winners. Gareth Southgate has just released his starting 11 to play, and it's the starting 11 that many people hoped he would put out, with a very attacking lineup put forwards by the England manager. That includes, of course, Tottenham star striker Harry Kane and captain of the England team, Bukayo Saka of Arsenal, the young sensation. It's a game that seems a lot more straightforward on paper than it does in reality. Of course, with Iran, a very defensively minded side who are going to want to sit back and hit England on the counter-attack through Mehdi Taremi of Porto. So it's going to be a question of how quickly England can break them down. England, who come into the tournament as one of the favourites, not the outright favourite, but of course one of the favourites to win the game. So we'll have to see exactly how well the Three Lions do on their start. The other two games, of course, today is the other match in Group B, which will be the United States against Wales, a very important game there as well, and the other match in Group A after Ecuador beat Qatar in the opening match of the tournament. It's now Senegal who take on the Netherlands. Senegal, who will of course be without the talismanic Sadio Mane.
Now, Simon, this is a World Cup like none other. And the next question I'm going to ask you is sort of going off in a completely different direction, and that is, of course, about the ongoing controversy surrounding the One Love armband. Can you tell us more?
Absolutely. It seems like controversy is never very far away, is it, when this Qatar 2022 tournament? Simply put, 7 European nations, including England, Wales, Germany, Denmark, the Netherlands, had all planned to wear an armband with the One Love armband, which celebrated LGBTQ rights and gay rights across the world. The captains of those teams would be wearing those armbands. All 7 teams have now announced that that's not going to be the case after FIFA threatened to take sporting sanctions against them in the form of a yellow card for the captain. Now, of course, if a player then receives 2 yellow cards, they would be sent off in the game. So it would essentially mean that you take the risk of losing one of your most important players throughout the match. It's unprecedented. FIFA have always applied financial penalties, federation penalties, but never a sporting penalty. And this, in effect, made sure that the captains would not be able to do this. All 7 federations in a joint statement expressed their frustration, their dismay at FIFA's decision, which of course Qatar had said that they would be allowing rainbow flags inside the stadium of a certain size, of course, of a certain parameter. Everything here seems to be very organised and set from the onset, but that's why the decision is of course a strange one. But I think the England game in particular is one where we could see protest, because on the Iranian side, with everything that's happening in Iran, the captain Issad Housafi said in the press conference, opened his press conference by saying that he wasn't at all happy with what was going on in his country, that it was a difficult situation, that his thoughts and the thoughts of the entire team were with the families of the victims of the protests, violent protests in Iran. And of course, in Senegal, in a friendly a couple of weeks ago, the Iranians hid the national shirt during the anthems, so perhaps we'll see if that happens again here.
All right, let's check this one out now. A fraught UN summit wrapped up on Sunday with a landmark deal on funding to help vulnerable countries cope with devastating climate impacts, but also anger over failure to be more ambitious in cutting emissions.
A glimmer of hope for millions around the globe. That's according to COP27's president, as he announced that for the first time, a dedicated loss and damage fund will provide emergency help to developing countries after disasters caused by climate change. That would help nations like Pakistan, which suffered historic rains this summer that killed thousands and displaced millions.
Pakistan is a poor country, and the world should send special help to Pakistan. It's a very good thing that they are helping people. Climate change is a world issue. Pakistan is affected, and Pakistan is not responsible for it, and they should help.
But details of how the fund would work have yet to be fleshed out, and it will be several years before it actually exists. The US and other developed nations had resisted the fund because of fears that costs would spiral. The US alone is responsible for around 20% of all carbon ever emitted.
The establishment of a fund is not about dispensing charity. It is clearly a down payment on the longer investment in our joint futures. It is a down payment and an investment in climate justice.
But the deal was won at the cost of a vital concession. COP27 failed to strengthen measures to ensure the planet doesn't surpass the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming target. Even 1.5 degrees would still see ecosystems wiped out and millions of people vulnerable to severe drought and flooding. The EU's head of climate policy warned that at the current rate of emissions, the globe is actually on track to warm by 2.4 degrees Celsius.
And that is unacceptable. We really need to speed up. And I'm sorry if I spoil the atmosphere for some people here, but this needs to be said.
That disappointment was echoed by delegates from France, Chile and the Maldives, as well as climate activists from around the world attending the conference.
Welcome back to the program. Well, Dr. Bishnu Raghunath, he's our guest now. He's a senior political analyst and political scientist at the St. Augustine campus at the University of the West Indies. He's somebody who's always willing and amenable to help discuss matters of that nature with people in the media generally. He's one of those who gives of his time sort of selflessly. We're trying to talk with him this morning about his insights into What is behind the lawsuit filed by Karen Nunez Teixeira and company challenging the conduct of these elections, the internal elections in the ruling party, the People's National Movement? In the party's history between 1956 and now, this is a new departure. To what extent it sends the party in a different direction, and to what extent it will resolve the issues that they are talking about. The elections are being conducted over 3 days, and the question of the safety of the ballot boxes and how would we be sure that the first past the post system will take course in this space. Dr. Raghunath, thanks for coming on.
Good morning, and thank you for being here, for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be here. Okay, so when we talk about the PNM elections, let me just say that I'm not a member of the PNM. I don't know the PNM's constitution to the extent that, I mean, all that I know of it is what I've read in the media. But two things. One, it's a convention. A convention, meaning that since 1956, as you correctly said, elections were held over 1 day. And why the departure from one election day to election days? That's a good question. But your initial question, what is driving this lawsuit? And I think what is driving this lawsuit really is the need to level the playing field somewhat. To level the playing field somewhat for those who are challenging the hierarchy of the PNM as at this point in time. What I mean by that, leveling the playing field? Well, for instance, there have been comments being made, for instance, that one, those who are challenging do not have access to things like the voters list, the addresses of the membership and so forth. So a constituency like St. Augustine, where I am from, for instance, you may have 5,000 or 10,000 members within the PNM, but nobody knows exactly where these members reside. And we can't do like the EBC, or we can't do like a general election and decide to call everybody and ask them whether they're voting for Dr. Rowley or Karen Nunez Teixeira, and try to encourage them to vote otherwise. So the point about it, just doesn't make sense. So the point about it, I think, is this their attempt to try to level the playing field, to at least get the public aware that it is not necessarily a fair election the way we would like to see it and the way we were told that it's going to be a fair election.
Well, I mean, you can't at all. You're not in a position to guess what the outcome might be in the court. But I imagine that you would be in discussions with people who would be sort of taxing your brain and putting things on the table about this issue. I mean, it's a major talking point, one that is probably historic. I'm just trying to get a sense of what has been the subject of some of the discussions you may have been in or invited to participate in to discuss this matter.
Well, there are various other things, I mean, for instance, and when I talk about the fairness of the election and so forth, there are various other issues. So, for instance, the PNM has always been the party that has shown to be one face in that nobody must, or any dirty linen must be washed inside and must not be thrown on the outside and those sorts of things. And some of the issues that arise here is simply to what extent is the PNM trying to stifle prospective candidates and candidates who are now on the nomination paper, on the ballot paper, stifle them from continuing in the race or even withdrawing from the race. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it would relate to the fact that, okay, fine, so we know that Karen Nunez Teixeira is challenging Dr. Rowley as well as two other people, I believe. But the whole question here is simply, should well, it's good to have a challenger when you could defeat that challenger by X amount of votes and suggest to the population or to the membership, well, look, I have a solid majority behind me. So that is one of the things that you would want to see. But I mean, you would want to probably, is it that there's a fear that Karen Nunez Teixeira might draw? No, let me just make it quite clear. I'm not sure that Karen Nunez Teixeira in fact, I am almost certain that it is difficult for Karen Nunes-Teixeira to win the election. Bear in mind that Keith Rowley is a sitting political leader and also prime minister, and the party will not change its leader midstream, and especially when that leader is prime minister. But point about it is Karen Nunes-Teixeira has put up a credible campaign against the PNM. She has raised many issues which the PNM themselves have tried to simply sweep under the carpet. So, for instance...
Is it against the PNM or against the leadership? Because she remains firmly PNM.
She remains firmly against the leadership. And she, for instance, she's raised the issue with the funding of the building of Bali's, the rebuilding of Bali's House, which clearly raises questions as to whether or not she's suggesting that there's some degree of corruption or fraud or something inside there. We don't know, or nepotism, whatever you want to call it. But alongside that, she's been critical of some of the policies adopted by this government. For instance, the cutting out of the Public Procurement Act and so forth. And those are things that she's speaking not to the PNM membership, rank and file membership per se, who just followed their leader, but rather she's speaking more or less to the general public at large, who is more willing and to listen to those kinds of issues. So in a way, what Karen Nunes-Teixeira is not only dealing with the internal membership of the PNM, she's trying to deal with it on the broad basis of here are issues which the country at large would like answers from this sitting government.
You think those perspectives are substantive?
Some of those perspectives are substantive, yes. The mere fact that the government has refused literally to pass the public procurement, to implement the Public Procurement Bill Act, and that in itself tells us that the government is leaving itself free to do as it pleases in engaging in any contracts and so forth that could be to the detriment of Trinidad and Tobago, but to the benefit of those in power. And those are substantive issues for the society at large.
So you think it's a reasonable concern about what will happen, for instance, with the ballot boxes between when on the first day of when the votes are cast to when they get counted, and that's one of the things that is part of this lawsuit. What will happen to the boxes to the extent to which this conduct is not consistent with the party's rules and regulations and so on?
Well, definitely that would be a concern for anybody who is contesting an election and who cannot be sure about the security of the ballot boxes, particularly so when you do not have the list of addresses of people who would have voted. So, for instance, there's that concern as to whether or not the ballot boxes could be stuffed during the course of that week between the first polling day and the second polling day. And for instance, I would have been a lot more comfortable if you tell me it's only one night and yes, we could have transported all the ballot boxes to a secure room in Bali's House or something like that. But the fact of the matter is simply one which says, over a 8-day or 9-day period, you are now looking for trouble when you talk about ensuring fairness and equality in an election.
And this is a radical departure with the way things have been done up to this point.
It's a radical departure not only for the PNM, but for in Trinidad and Tobago, in the Caribbean, in the United States. Elections are held over one day. Of course, ballots are counted long before and so forth. But the point about it is that most of their balloting systems are electronic and so forth, and it's not. And there's greater veracity of what is happening in their elections. But throughout the Caribbean, all elections are held over one day. And it's, hard to see whether or not the PNM itself is so humongous as a party that they have to share their elections over 3 days and at different locations. Because if I understand it correctly, the first 2 days would be at the constituency offices, and then the third day would be at the Queen's Park Savannah.
At the convention itself.
Yes. Right, yeah. So then there's that transported now of the ballot boxes from wherever it is being stored back to the Savannah on the day of the convention. Then you have so that is where the real challenge comes in. And to what extent, for instance, would we see double voting or triple voting, as the case might be? Of course, the elections committee will tell you we have put everything in place and we're going to check it and so on. But there's always room for skepticism and there's room for ambiguity as to what is going to actually happen. And that is why Karen Nunes, Teixeira, I am assuming, would have taken this to the courts. We'll wait for the court's decision later today.
Yeah, what do you think about, what do you make of this? This is the party of democracy in Trinidad and Tobago, and we say in the Caribbean about what is happening. That is one issue. Then, well, I've been reporting I've reported on the fact that people have come forward to say that this or that person who wanted to contest this or that seat had been discouraged from doing that because the hierarchy in the party, the political leader, has a person in that seat, in that position, and therefore somebody else, a challenger, should step aside. That's one of the things that has come forward in this discussion about these elections thus far. Yesterday, somebody called to say that a minister was in a cuss-out with somebody over the question about contesting for a particular position in the party. That kind of thing is emerging as we get closer to those dates.
And that is acceptable, and that is not limited to the PNM. It's generally one that is across all elections, where people on one side will try to convince people on the other side to either withdraw or to not really campaign to win an election. So that is something that we'll expect. What, however, we know for a fact is that the PNM, as I said earlier in the interview, puts out a unified face. In fact, they don't want to show that there are challenges from within the PNM. And even the hierarchy should be so constructed that people will know that they are in charge and they are the ones who are going to make the decisions. So that is something that we don't normally it cannot be said that it was unexpected that we'd have some of those things. What, however, is some of the complaints we are hearing about now raises questions as to exactly to what extent are they taking these things. And for instance, you raise a question where a minister would have had a cuss out with somebody who is challenging one of the candidates on the slate that probably the minister has or is supporting. And that is one of the concerns that we really have to ask ourselves. Here's a party that proclaims itself as to be the basis of democracy, and it is still afraid of challenges, open challenges. In fact, one of the things, I would have thought that, and this is where I would have thought that you need now to get leadership into play. And leadership into play tells us it's not only about telling people what to do, and but it is about guiding the people. And this is where the leadership of the PNM should have come out openly and say, I don't support this type of behavior, and let us discontinue it. But again, we're not getting that type of leadership. I didn't expect that we get those kind of comments from the political leader. And he should have invited everybody. Everybody wants to come in and throw their hat in the ring. It's a free-for-all. But when the leader throws his hat behind a slate, well, then we understand that that is going to now undermine anybody else who would like to challenge that slate.
All right, that's just what you call political reality, or do you support it, endorse it, or are you in any position to say one way or the other what should be the conduct of the leadership of any party?
I can't say what the leadership should do and should be. What I should say is simply one which says that once you are in a political position, and if you want to proclaim that you are all for democracy, then the first thing you should do is simply open the doors of democracy as wide as you can. And to that extent, invite everybody to come in and to participate freely and fairly. Of course, this is where leaders are supposed to also rein in their supporters, to tell their supporters. And that's one of the things I know that the Council for Responsible Political Behavior has been doing, because many a times, it's not the politicians on the platform who would have spoken, but rather it would have been the membership of the party who would have encouraged or pursued certain actions. And then we call on the leadership to rein in your membership. Now, this election doesn't fall under the purview of the Council for Responsible Political Behavior, so I'm not speaking in that capacity at all. All I'm simply saying is simply one where leadership must be a leadership which gives us the impression, and not only gives the impression, must be seen and believed to be acting in the interest of the entire community.
Yeah, and in many cases, I've spoken to a number of people who say over the years they've had issues, and I can say that the Venerable Ferdy Ferrer, who's declared as a patriot in the country, he is one of those who said, well, we've had issues in the past, but you go to the General Council, you go to whatever councils in the party, and you fight it out. This business about going to court and about making these things public is not the PNM way of doing things. A number of people have said that.
Well, that is another issue altogether, and that is the issue as relates to what is allowed in the General Council. And again, remember, it's the hierarchy of the party that holds sway in the General Council, the chairman, the political leader, and so forth. And I know for a fact, in fact, I actually had raised it with a minister, when a member of the General Council had come to me, the PNM General Council had come to me and says, Doc, can you raise these issues in the public platform? Because we cannot raise it, because if we raise it, we're going to be seen as challenging the party publicly.
Ostracized and so on.
Right. And then the second thing is that within the party, we don't have the forum to raise it ourselves. And when I raised it with the minister responsible for that particular area, she said, but I have never known that that was the case. And she turned to one of her colleagues and says, can you please find out that? And well, of course, the colleague would only smile and say, well, Minister, that's the reality of politics, right? But the point about it is not everything that is said at the General Council, or not everything could be said at the General Council is actually said, because, again, the leadership manages that process. However, and this is where at the convention you would expect some of these things to be raised, where the rank and file has a greater opportunity to speak. But again, we really have to wait and see how this convention plays off. I mean, Dr. Rowley has led the PNM into a whole different scenario, the one man, one vote and everything else, which is
good,
commendable for the PNM and leading the way. But the point about it, again, we have to understand that some of the concerns we have to raise them. Some of us may recall that when Dr. Rowley challenged Patrick Manning for political leadership way back in 1996.
1996.
Right. At that time, Keith Rowley had similar complaints against the executive of the PNM at that point in time. And he claimed that party groups were formed overnight, because at that time it was not one man, one vote. It was party groups having 2 delegates to the convention and so forth.
Yeah, it was a delegate system, yes.
Right. So, and he challenged it. And of course, that remained a whole big issue that has to be dealt with. And that is why there's always that concern that those in opposition do not always get a free and fair bite at the cherry. But again, That's the way we know politics, and those in power don't want to change the status quo because it will undermine their position. But if we want real democracy, we have to change the status quo.
Yeah, we got to go, but let me just ask you quickly if you have a comment on it. There's been somebody who's been on my case about finding out where the party is getting money to build the sort of imposing structure that will be Balize House 2. Where's
the party getting the money?
Yes.
Well, here, this party has been one of those fortunate parties, in that it contested 3 elections, or 5 elections, if we want to consider the 2 Tobago elections, or 6 elections, as a matter of fact. 2 general, 2 local, and 2 in Tobago. Yeah. 6 elections. When we, over the last 7 years, elections are a way of getting monies that are not accounted for. Donors, and we don't have campaign finance legislation
for that. Yeah.
We don't have anything like that. The party continues to collect money. I have known examples where people give cash money, and when I say cash money, monies in terms of the millions. I saw a clip the other day about where the Minister of Works was showing that $1 million fits in a carry box. Well, the point about it is that I have seen people, or I have heard people carry more than 1 carry box at a time in their trunk, fill their trunks and drop it at the party headquarters. Are those monies being fully accounted for? And if they're not, well, clearly they're not being used. All of it may not be used in the election campaign, but again, that's where it comes from. And those same supporters who are now in power, those supporters who are now supporting those who are in power, will continue to give when they are told that once you give and we recognize you, after the election, your issues will be dealt with and you'll be treated as best as we can.
You and your business will be taken care of. Dr. Bishnu Raghunath, thank you very much for talking with us, as always.
It's been my pleasure.
We take a break. We go up to the news. On the other side of that, Wendy Jeremy and Anisha Romani, they are members of the BP Marionettes Chorale. We're talking about A Christmas with the Marionettes. Stay with us. This is AM Prime.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered.
The conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN Content Capital.
Seven is out. All day is in. WESN News on the hour.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
In this season, we talk more about health, wellness, and everything in between. I am so excited to share with you everything about health and wellness so that you can design the life that you've always dreamed of. Join me here on What's Up Doc.
What's Up Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix-It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix-It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best for your baby is at dbesttoys.com. We have the best strollers, car seats, walkers, feeding accessories, playpens, cribs, clothing, and the widest range of brand name toys like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Nerf, LOL, Fisher Price, Cocomelon, Intex Pools, Amazon Fire tablets, HP and Gateway laptops, and the best bikes, scooters, skateboards, and ride-on. Visit us in-store at Southern Main Road, McBean, or shop online now at dbesttoys.com. That's dbesttoys.com. We have the best toys at the best prices.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to the program. We're having a discussion now with members of an organization that is a 59-year-old tradition, the Marionettes Chorale. They're known for the last few years as the BP Marionettes Chorale, and they're having this function around this time of the year for most of those 59 years. So we want to talk with them about what's on the cards this edition, the Marionettes Chorale, the BP Marionettes Chorale, in something called A Christmas with the Marionettes. If you've been living in Trinidad and Tobago for any length of time, you ought to know that this is on the agenda at some point in this Christmas period. Wendy Jeremy is a member of the chorale as well as Anisha Romani. And they are our guests from that side of the table to the center. We want to start with you, Ms. Jeremy. You look like the more seasoned person that is.
Why you said that? Is it my gray hair?
Well, no, there's everything about you suggests that you are more senior to Ms. Romani here.
Indeed. I have been with the Marionettes for 50 plus years.
Wow.
That's why I said we're 59 years old this year and we'll be 60 next year. And I've enjoyed it. People say, so long? I said yes, because the music appeals to me. I'm allowed to be myself. I go there and I, have a lot of fun, healthy fun. They heckle me every choir practice. So I don't mind that. I like it, so I go out there. And I often tell people, I use that to recharge my batteries ever since, to go back home to deal with whatever I have to deal with. It's a recharging because over the years we've met a lot of gentlemen in the choir. You meet people from all walks of life. So that interests me a lot. I can chat and
you mean who are members of the
yes.
of the organization? People
yes.
come from different sort of
yes.
spheres of life.
All so that I engage in a lot of talk. And as you know, COVID has kept us away from Greendot for the last 2 years.
So this is the first time you're going to be doing this
yes.
in 3 years, yeah. So
right.
What was it like going through Christmas, not being able to do what you will do? This is your big moment.
Yes, we missed as members. We missed congregating. Remember, there's a little lime. When I say a lime afterwards, you're meeting up with your friends. Yeah. But we did a lot of work behind the scenes. We were able to digitize a lot of work, our archival. We put it in archives, We did a lot of that, and we put a lot of things on television for people to see. Our Christmas concerts, our USA tour. We did a lot of musicals, a lot of reviews. We even did Carmen, the opera that we did. So you can have a look at it on our YouTube channel. So we did that. We also did two things. One in 2 Christmas concerts. One last year, 2021, and the year before we did that concert. And we released 2 videos as well. Bring Back the Old Time Days, and another one that we did. Bring Back the Old Time Days, and at Christmas concerts, right? So we had to learn via Zoom, which was a different experience for us, because I must say they Bring Back the Old Time Days. That was challenging music, arranged by the late, great Dr. Desmond Waith.
Yeah.
And we had to learn it, ourselves at home. However, we had a choir practice with Enrique, our pianist, our accompanist there, and we were taught, because it was a little difficult for us, a different thing. And we eventually got it. So that is what some of the work we did while we were away.
In that period. So it took, let me come to you, Ms. Roman. So it took some of the stress away, because a lot of people found it hard to navigate that period when you virtually had nothing to do, stay home and watch TV and so on.
Yes, it was quite difficult. I think that aspect of not being able to meet, there's something to be said of course, as a musician, you practice, right? But there's something to be said for playing with others or singing with others, performing, coming together. And of course, we missed that element during the pandemic, not being able to come together, to meet, to sing. It's something that really breathes life into a lot of us, into a lot of our members. And so to have to learn things on our own, the frustration of trying to, record yourself and try to sing it as perfectly as you can, because then, of course, it has to come together en masse to sound, and you have one singular output. It was challenging, but we tried to make the best of it, and we're just so grateful to be able to have the opportunity to sing again in person, which I think points to the title of our Christmas concert this year, Hallelujah, right?
That's the name of the concert.
That's the name of our concert this year, Hallelujah.
I want to ask one of you about the importance of that piece. There's a version of it by, I think, is there's a group of youngsters who is called the Heptonics or something like that.
The Pentatonics.
Pentatonics.
Yes.
When I'm in a blue mood, I put that on.
Yes.
And I just,
the Pentatonics. They do have quite a fascinating version.
Yeah. So I have a cousin. I grew up in a village called Los Bajos down in Palace Equiside and so on. I have a cousin called Josh. Her name is Rosalind Haynes. And in growing up, well, our house was about 200 yards from where they lived, and they lived on a little rise in the village. And she loved singing, and on a Sunday morning you would hear her voice traveling hundreds of yards across the village. I don't know if she would join the choir or anything like that, but she had them kind of tendencies. So when you talk about practicing, that is what happens?
Yes, pretty much.
We see, I wanted to add on to that.
Yeah.
The words in one of our songs goes like this: music builds a bridge. It can tear down a wall. Music is a language that can speak to one and all. This is why we sing, why we lift our voice, why we stand in harmony. Take my hand and sing with me. Isn't that applicable to what she just said? Yeah. Very much so. And that's why we sing.
Lift your voice and sing.
Lift your voice and sing, coming together. And our hallelujah, the meaning of that, gratitude and adoration. We are happy to be back, and we are ringing in the birth of our Lord to adore him. That is what I get from, the theme, hallelujah. Right. Gratitude and adoration.
And I said I would ask you all where are your placements in the chorale. Who is in front and who is? How do you talk about that?
Well, I'm pretty short, so I stand in the front.
You're in the front.
I'm an alto, contralto, and I really enjoy singing that part. Brings me a lot of joy, harmonizing.
All right, and I said I said who is the tenor? So you're an alto. So
I am an alto as well.
Yeah.
But according to Mrs. Taylor, she says, you're not here for people to see you.
Greta Taylor.
Yes, you're here to sing. And she's very concerned about who she places where. Her thing is the blend of voices. She knows exactly what she wants to hear. And it must be aesthetically sound. Yeah. She has to conduct it. So she places, everybody has a place, and we must stand there. So we place ourselves where we can see, because, you have to place yourself between two people. And that's what it's about.
So are there times when you all argue with her or about her decisions?
Absolutely not.
Sometimes.
Because you can't, these people are magisterial, right?
Sometimes we may express it.
Yeah.
But, and she may take it away and think about it and adjust it. Yeah. She may operative word. But we have, even sometimes, the programs she prepares sometimes, we may not understand why she's doing what she's doing or why she's putting what where. But after we sing it, there's evidence. We're happy, we're pleased. There's no doubt that she knows what she's doing. That's how we go with it.
Incredible insights.
Yeah, and sometimes after a concert, you just watch you and say, there.
I asked her at some point, I said, what do you think about, what are you thinking about when you prepare the program? Because she prepares our two programs, one in July, one in December. What are you thinking about? I guess after we do one concert, she's thinking about the other. Yeah. So she has her own way of doing things. Because this year, she planned a very reflective, yet it is lively, offerings, life-affirming offerings.
And we haven't talked yet about when the concert is, and so let's get to that.
That's next week. Next week, Saturday and Sunday.
December 3rd and 4th.
The 3rd and 4th of December. So all like now, so it's crunch time for rehearsals and so on.
Crunch time for learning music. Yes, and for selling the tickets, because my literature about the choir tells me that we only have 94 tickets at $250.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we're seeing on the screen there. Okay. That is like, you remember where this performance was, where this was on?
That was at Queen's Hall, and that could have been a couple of years ago, because I see Trent there in the center. Yes. And I see another fella, Errol, and so this is a couple of years ago, yes.
At Queen's Hall?
That's where I was.
Because that's your base, that's your staging base. Yeah. So. You all don't move around the country too much?
We do. Yeah. We do. We have done it especially when we do fundraising.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we went to St. Joseph, we went to Rima already in years past. We've been to Diego Martin. Yeah, we've been to South. Yeah. We have done that. We also went to the University of the Southern Caribbean.
Yeah.
One time. Yeah, we do in town. We do fundraising that way.
Yeah, is it important, Anisha, to talk about some of the items that would be on the list in this year?
Absolutely. I think there's a little something for everyone. It's again, this has been very well curated, put together by Mrs. Taylor. We have featured a variety of audience favorites, so songs that people have requested that we performed in past concerts, and they enjoyed so much that they asked that we perform them again. Christmas varieties, of course, pieces from the late Mr. Wade and his very, very Trinidadian just joy when it comes to Christmas. So things like arrangements like Suka Santa, La Jornada, which is Din Din Din, Anda Parandero,
yes.
And so Christmas is yours, Christmas is mine. It's a wonderful, wonderful collection, as well as, of course, more spiritual pieces, Christmas carols involving exactly gospel. Again, those varieties I mentioned, the Hallelujah, we're performing 2 Hallelujah pieces, one by Beethoven from the Mount of Olives, as well as Handel's Messiah. So a Hallelujah chorus.
So these are like the staples in a Christmas show, right?
Absolutely. So like I said, there's something for everyone. We are very, very excited to put this offering to be back in Queen's Hall, to be back in the space to share, to come together, of course, with our talented musicians as well, who will be playing, of course, it's live music accompanying the choir. So it's quite an experience.
I just want to say here, we are introducing new music at this concert. Yeah. We don't talk about Bruno from the hit film, Encanto. And that piece has been arranged by Khadijah Huggins, one of our members. Talented members, Khadijah Huggins. She has arranged it, and they were taught it by Joshua Joseph and Carol Warner. Those two, and there is a collective there of young musicians who are conductors, educators, and arrangers, and they are mentored by Dr. Roger Henry. So we look forward to that new breed.
So this is a generation that is emerging.
Yes, yes. Because we had a little taste of Karen Warner at Sunday's rehearsal. And to me, she means business. I'm frightened already. She means business, you know. She was very meticulous in what she was asking the seniors for. And I think the youngsters had a taste of Joshua on the Saturday. Yes. So I can only speak for what I had a taste of. That's Miss Warner. She's very, seems to be interested in her music.
Yeah. So there's the Mariners, the Lydians, the Southerners. I was the lady in San Fernando. Talking about the hierarchy of chorale music in the country, and what is the value of that to us, sort of mere mortals?
No, I want to say this, and I'm not showing off about it. If you look at the history, we are 59 years, so we are the longest standing choir in Trinidad and Tobago. Give us that.
Right.
And if you look at our videos, you see how serious we are about it. It's just not by VAPs. It's well organized, well ordered, disciplined. Even just as we walk on and off the stage, there's order, and the good singing you hear, the blend of voices. I mean, you can't be the Mariners. I am also saying the other choirs are good. But let us look at long-standing, we've been here for a long time. And to be alive for 59 years, it must be very
in and
good.
of itself is
Oh, yes.
I must also speak to the education that happens at rehearsals. It's one thing I've always admired as a musician myself, as a teacher, being able to pass on that musical knowledge, that the value, appreciating different genres, but also, of course, we have sheet music. It's not just about words on a page. It's bringing music to life. So we teach our members, how do we read this line? What do these notes mean? It's about actually passing on that musical knowledge and growing with it. The more you sing, the more music you're exposed to, the different styles that you're exposed to. All of that is taught and passed on. And I think that's something that has been with us from the very beginning, and it continues to hold value today. And it is bringing us to that position of excellence.
It's interesting because we had a discussion. I had a discussion yesterday, right here, with Mr. Kenneth Listrop about the classical music group in the country. He and his brother, and saying some of the same kind of things. Yes. The value of music to people who are involved in it and people who consume it, and being able to understand and read music and know music and so on. We don't really, most of us don't really see the value of it for our very lives.
Actually, as recent as last week, Mrs. Taylor was telling us about the difference between gospel and spiritual music. She says, you know, you have the liberty in the gospel to raise your hand. Or she may break the phrase here instead of there. You know, she says, so no, I'm telling you. And we listened, at least I listened, you know, the difference between gospel and spiritual. So we know a little more. When we sit there, it's just not about singing, it's about knowing what we're doing, what we're singing about. Yeah, she does that.
Yeah, sometimes you wonder if given the way in which the country has evolved over these decades and so on, if we didn't have organizations and groups and fellowships or sisterships like these, where would we have been? And the extent to which these things contribute to making life less coarse and.
You know, we normally do a charity on the Saturday afternoon, where we invite children from homes and the shut-ins and so. And we hope that when those young people come, they say, I want to be like that lady there playing the guitar. I want to be like that lady conducting. That man who's, you know, playing the piano. Or that lady who played an instrument. I want to be like that. Those singing, I want to be like that. So that is what we hope, that they will come and learn and get from it when we give back that, because we enjoy doing it. Not only for the elders, but for the youngsters who come to see it. Yeah, we want them to be like us, you know, set a good example for them so that they can keep away from the streets.
Yeah, Ms. Roman, you said you teach music.
I actually teach a variety of things, inclusive of English, Spanish, and music at times, yes.
Yeah. So you're a kind of linguist as well?
I am, sir, yes. It's a great passion of mine, communicating and connecting with people, regardless of how I do that, through sport, through languages, through music, especially reaching another person. And I think that's why this has such a profound influence on my life. Why I continue to be involved with the Marionettes, why I would love to continue to be involved with them for ages to come, and to pass on that knowledge, that experience, and that just the tremendous gift that music is with others, be it in the audience or teaching and singing and nurturing our community, because music, as I said, it really breathes life into a community, and I shudder to think where we would be without it.
You have a kind of commanding presence about you, and I'm just imagining seeing you in front of a class. And people. I could imagine when this turns to seriousness, you know, your whole composure and so on. It's trouble.
Yeah. Because she takes care of the little ones too at the rehearsals. Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to it's the 3rd
and 4th of December.
Remember I said there were only 94 tickets left at $250 for Saturday.
Want to hurry.
And 9 at $300 for Saturday. And Sunday we only have 20 at $250 left and 1 at $300. I hope the literature has been updated. While I tell you, this was yesterday. I hope it has been updated. Yeah. But there are tickets available.
Those people who still want to go and don't have the tickets, what do they do?
Where they can get it from members, they can get it from orders at marionettechoral.com, 790-1751. They can ring that number. They could go to Queen's Hall box office to get tickets. and as I say, they can come to us at rehearsals at All Saints. So we on our way.
There's a fellow who says that there's no Christmas without Parang, but there's no Christmas without a Marionettes concert.
Because Christmas begins with the Marionettes. That's what it is.
December 3rd and 4th at Queen's Hall.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Wendy Jeremy and Anisha Romani, thank you all very much. We want to go out with what we call a watch this weekend. The Massey All-Stars hosted a concert, this past weekend, hosted a concert mottled called Classical Jewels, in which they performed an ensemble of movie melodies. We want to take a look at that, taking us out on this edition of the program. Take a look.